Alright, what is up, friends? We are here for the final portion of the Ixalan limited set review. We've got Multicolor, we've got artifacts, we got transform cards. Let's hop right into it, starting things off with Admiral Beckett Brass. Grixis colors and 1 for a 3/3 human pirate. Other pirates you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. You guys can read what her other ability is. Generally speaking, this is not going to be something that's entirely relevant. If you're hitting a player with 3 or more pirates, you're probably winning anyways, and stealing something from them is probably just going to be gratuitous at that point. There are a lot of nice pirates in the set to pump, but she's a little bit hindered by the 3 color mana requirements. I'm only going to give this a 2 out of 5. Obviously, it could be much, much better, but I just think the mana requirements are a little bit steep, maybe a 2.5. Belligerent Brontodon, green, white, and 5 for a 4/6 dino. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So it's a 4/6 for 7 that turns everything into the Doran ability, or, gives the Doran ability. So it kind of deals power as a 6 power creature. I think this card's okay. It's not amazing. Obviously, you can kind of craft a deck to make this work really well, as there are a ton of green-white creatures with larger power than their toughness. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Call to the Feast, black, white, and 2. Sorcery, create 3 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink. I think this is a very solid card overall. The vampires having lifelink is a big plus, of course. 4 mana for 3 1/1s is pretty standard for a limited format. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Deadeye Plunderers, black, blue, and 3 for a 3/3 human pirate. It gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and guess what? There are plenty of artifacts in the form of treasures in this set. And you can play 2 black and blue, create a colorless treasure token. So, you know what? This is just a really solid uncommon overall. It gets really scary in the late game where you can effectively pay 4 mana to give it +1/+1, continuously. And if you already have other ways to get artifacts or other treasure tokens, then it just goes way, way up in value. Of course, everything is going to be multicolored here, so they're going to be harder to cast, but I think this is like a 3 or a 3.5. Direfleet Captain, black and red for a 2/2 orc pirate. Whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other attacking pirate. I think this is going to be good in those aggro pirate decks. It's just a solid 2-drop. It says each other attacking pirate, so it doesn't boost itself when it attacks standalone, but I still think it's going to be decent. 2.5. Gishath Sun's Avatar. Red, green, white, and 5 for a 7/6 trample vigilance haste dinosaur avatar. When it deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards on the top of your library. Put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So even if you don't have any other dinosaurs in your deck, it's a 7/6 trample vigilance haste for 8, which is huge. If you do have dinosaurs in your deck, oh my god, this goes way, way up in value, of course. Standalone stats already put it at like a 3 or a 3.5. Mana requirements just being prohibitive, but if you have more dinosaurs and you can cast this with any, reasonable curve, I'd say this turns into a 4. Gishath Sun's Avatar. Hostage Taker, black, blue, and 2 for a 2/3 pirate. When it enters the battlefield, exile a target creature or artifact until it leaves the battlefield. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. Whoa, this card is amazing for limited. It's removal plus card advantage all in one. I kind of think of like a Gonti, Lord of Luxury, when I see Hostage Taker, but the fact that it's taking that card from your opponent off of their battlefield just puts it way, way up in my opinion. Of course, the mana requirements are a little bit awkward. This is an easy 4 out of 5. Huatli Warrior Poet, our first Planeswalker here. Red, white, and 3. Or sorry, I guess Jace was our first Planeswalker. But anyways, red, white, and 3. 3 loyalty to start. +2, you gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. 0, create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature with trample, and -X deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. Creatures dealt damage this way can't block. Planeswalkers are almost always just nutty and bomby in Limited, this one is no difference. The fact that she protects herself with a 0 ability is huge, and 3/3s are really, really solid. Every turn that she stays on the battlefield is just going to get, you're going to get greater and greater value and pull farther and farther ahead. Plus, the -X means that if you do build up some amount of creatures, then you're just going to be able to win the game off of this. I'm going to give this a 4.5. Marauding Looter. Blue, red, and 2 for a 4/3, so not bad stats for 4 mana already. And Raid, you draw a card and then discard a card. So a 4/3 Looter if you had raided, or a 4/3 for 4. Not bad. This is probably a 3. Raging Swordtooth. Red, green, and 3 for a 5/5 trample. So 5 mana for a 5/5 trample dinosaur. Good stats on its own already. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each other creature. Holy moly, this card is great. So not only is it going to take care of, pesky 1 toughness creatures from your opponent's side, or finish off some creature that's already been dealt damage, this also triggers Enrage on your side. So if you have any Enrage creatures, it's also going to, trigger those, and you're going to get the abilities off that. I think this is just one of the best uncommons in the set. Probably a 4 out of 5. Regisaur Alpha, green, red, and 3 for a 4/4 dino. Other dinos you control have haste, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 3/3 dino with trample. This is one of the bombs that we were talking about. It's not a 5 out of 5, but it's on par with some of the best cards. It's just, you just get too much value. Even if your opponent kills the Regisaur, you've gotten a 3/3 and eaten a removal spell from them. This is another 4.5. Shapers of Nature, green, blue, and 1 for a 3/3, so 3/3 for 3, good stats. You can pay 3 and a green to put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and you can pay 2 and a blue to remove a 1/1 counter creature from a creature you control to draw a card. This is another absurd uncommon. It's just going to take over later in the game. It has Merfolk synergies. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Sky Terror, red, white, 2/2, Flying Menace. Nice aggro 2-drop. Hard to block because of Menace and Flying, so you're going to need 2 flyers to really deal with it, which is nice. I'm going to give this a 3. Tishana, Voice of Thunder, 5 green, blue for a star Merfolk Shaman. Power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control. So this has the ability to be a huge bomb depending on how many other creatures you already have on the battlefield. Obviously, if you only have 1 other creature or even 2 other creatures, it's not amazing. And given that she's probably going to be one of the last cards in your hand that you cast, you're not going to have much more than the cards you draw. But, it has the potential there. I'm going to give this a wavering 2.5 to 4. Vona, Butcher of Magan, 3 white, black for a 4/4 Vigilance Lifelink Vampire. You can tap it, pay 7 life, destroy target non-land permanent, activate this ability on your turn only. Yeah, another absurd bomb here. It's going to take over the game very, very quickly. If you play this, say, on turn 5, on turn 6, you get to untap, attack first, and then you can pay 7 to remove a blocker for Vona. So I'm going to give this a 4.5. Vraska, Relic Seeker, a second Planeswalker here in multicolor. This is 4 black and a green for a 6 loyalty starting out Planeswalker. +2, create a 2/2 black creature with Menace. So plus ability that protects herself is already huge. -3 is destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, create a treasure token, and -10, target player's life total becomes 1. So 3 turns after casting, you can already ultimate. You play Vraska, uptick, she goes to 8, you get a 2/2. Next turn, you uptick, she goes to 10, you get a 2/2. Next turn, you can -10 and put your opponent at 1. Vraska is another huge, huge bomb in this format. She protects herself with both the +2 and -3. This is another easy 4.5. Legion's Landing is going to be the first of our transform cards. You might have noticed that these cards were missing in their respective colors. This is white for an enchantment. Enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 life linking vampire. When you attack with 3 or more creatures, you transform it, and it transforms into Adanto, the First Fort. There's going to be a whole cycle of these lands. This one's pretty darn good because the ability to create a token, or rather just a creature, on a land is huge, and this one is a 1/1 white vampire with lifelink. I think these cards are going to be very, very good. The only problem is making sure that you can trigger them and transform them. attacking with 3 or more creatures isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. You might be throwing away a creature or two and able to enable it, but if it does, it's just hugely problematic for the opponent. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Search for Azcanta is the next, blue and 1. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library, then you may put that card in your graveyard. If you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform it. So this is going to be, I think, an easier one to transform than the white. But let's see what it does on the front or the back side. Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin. Tap to add blue. Tap and 2. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So easier to transform, but I think the ability here is worse. For limited sake, this is probably only going to be maybe a 2 or a 2.5 out of 5. Arguel's Bloodfast, black and 1. Enchantment. You can pay black and 1, pay 2 life, draw a card. So the old greed ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, you may transform it. And tap, sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrifice creature's toughness when it's a Temple of Akhlazats. Not a very good one. I think the greed ability is really solid, but generally speaking, you're not going to want to transform this. And if you do, the transform ability is not even that good. 2. Vance's Blasting Cannons, red and 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast that card this turn. That's already great. The transform is whenever you cast your 3rd spell in a turn, you may transform it. And it turns into Spitfire Bastion. You can tap it. Spitfire Bastion does 3 damage to target creature or player. So both a bomb, really, on its front side and its transform side, as getting extra spells in limited, obviously very, very good. And you don't have to put any mana into it besides the initial 4. And then the transform, being able to lightning bolt something for 3 mana, I guess in this case, open firing something for 3 mana is huge. I think Vance's Blasting Cannons is going to be highly splashable, just very good. And even if you don't transform it, you're still getting that value every turn, as you can potentially, cast another spell. So I'm going to give this a 3.5. Next is Growing Rites of Itlimoc, green and 2. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, you transform it, and it's the Gaia's Cradle effect on the back. Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun. This one's okay. It's not amazing. I doubt it's going to be a huge bomb like the red one is. This is probably closer to a 2 or a 2.5. Conqueror's Galleon is the first of our artifacts and the first vehicle that we've seen here. 4 mana for a 2/10 vehicle. Whenever it attacks, exile it at end of combat, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. So 4 mana, 2/10. Whenever it attacks, exile it at end of combat, then return it to the battlefield transformed. It transforms into a Conqueror's Foothold, a land with a ton of abilities, as you can see. Yeah, pretty good overall. It's not going to be easy to crew, as crew 4 is a little bit hard. But the nice thing is your opponent's not going to be likely to kill it, as it has 10 toughness. Good value. I'm going to give this a 2.5. Dowsing Dagger. 2 mana for an equipment. Enters the battlefield. Target opponent creates 2/0/1 green plant creature tokens with Defender. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may transform the Dowsing Dagger. It transforms into Lost Veil. You can just tap it, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. Pretty solid. I think equipment in limited really need to be above par to make the cut, but 2 mana to cast, 2 mana to equip, and its +2/+1 is not too shabby. Think of it as like a more expensive Trusty Machete. And on the transform side, it gets to ramp you quite a bit. This is probably a 2 or a 2.5. Primal Amulet, 4 mana. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Primal Amulet. Then if there are 4 more charge counters, you may remove those counters and transform it. Primal Wellspring, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. When that mana is spent to cast an instant or sorcery, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for this copy. I don't think this one's very playable. You're going to need a very large number of instants and sorceries to even get it to transform in the first place. And then once you do, yeah, it has really good upside, but again, getting to that point is going to be very, very hard. How many instants and sorceries are you going to need in your deck to really make this to make this work? and not just be, you know, a 4 mana do nothing on the front side. I think this is a 1.5. Thematic Compass, 2 colorless artifact. You may pay 3, tap, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 7 or more lands, you transform the Thematic Compass into Spires of Arazka. Tap it, add a colorless, or tap, untap target attacking creature an opponent controls and remove it from combat. Nice little Maze of Ith ability on this transform side. I think this is just a very, very solid card, as you can, you know, pay unused mana to thin out your deck, get some more cards, and eventually you're going to hit 7 mana, and when you do, having a Maze of Ith in limited is absurd. I think this one's very, very solid, playable in every draft and sealed deck. I'm going to give this a 3.5. Treasure Map is 2 colorless. Pay 1, tap it, scry 1, put a landmark counter on Treasure Map, then if there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters, transform it, and create 3 treasure tokens. Alright, so 3 uses of scry. You get 3 treasure tokens and transform it. It turns into Treasure Cove. You can sacrifice a treasure to draw a card, and it still adds a colorless mana. Not too shabby. Scry 1 is not terrible, and it's only at the cost of 1 mana. And then the fact that it still gives you 3 treasures when it transforms, so there's some payoff to using it 3 times, is kind of nice. Sacrificing a treasure to draw a card instead of adding a mana, also pretty darn good. I'm going to give this a 3. Cobbled Wings, we've seen this before. It's a reprint. 2 colorless, equipment, equip creature has flying, 1 to equip. Generally, Cobbled Wings is not a card you want to play. It just doesn't do enough. I can see this being sideboarded in sometimes, but overall, it's kind of a dead card. I'm going to give it a 1.5. Dusk Legion Dreadnought, 5 colorless for a 4/6 vigilance vehicle, and it's only 2 crew. It's a big vehicle. It's cheap to crew. It has vigilance. Give this a 2.5. Elaborate Fire Cannon, 2 colorless artifact. Doesn't untap during your untap step, and you can pay 4 and tap to deal 2 damage to target creature or player. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may discard a card. If you do, untap it. I don't think this is actually that bad. In some grindier long games, you know, you can sandbag lands just to ditch them later on to untap it, and 4 mana for 2 damage to a creature or player is not insignificant in limited. I think this card is going to look bad on the surface, but actually be quite decent. I'm going to give this a 3. Fell Flagship, 3 colorless for a 3/3 vehicle. Pirates you control get +1/+0, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. Crew cost of 3. This card's going to be super, super annoying. It's like a ground Hypnotic Spectre. One that's a little bit awkward to crew, as the crew is 3, but if you have a lot of pirates in your deck, then it's going to be pretty easy, as this also pumps up your pirates. It's a rare, but I think it's pretty solid overall. Give it a 3. Gilded Sentinel, 4 colorless for a 3/3 vanilla golem. Filler for sure, 1.5. And that's... oh, no, Hierophant's Chalice. I thought the Gilded Sentinel was the last, but Hierophant's Chalice, 3 colorless artifact. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. And it taps to add 1 mana to your mana pool. I mean, the life loss is generally insignificant, and not ramping you with colored mana is a huge deal. Maybe in some slower decks if you have the big bombs, but overall this is probably just a 1.5. Pillar of Origins, 2 colorless artifact. Enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. Again, very fringe uses. You're going to need a ton of a specific tribe, be it merfolk, vampire, pirate, whatever, to make this even playable in the first place. Not very good, 1.5. Pirate's Cutlass, 3 mana for an equipment. Enters the battlefield, attach it to target pirate you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+1, and the equip cost is 2. A little bit too expensive for me. Yes, if you have a 2-drop pirate and you curve this out on turn 3, that's really, really nice, but I think the equip cost is just a little too high, but it's still playable. I'm going to give it a 2. Prying Blade, 1 mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0, and whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, you get a treasure token. Equip cost of 2. Not shabby. The nice thing is it's cheap to cast, but the equip being 2 kind of hinders it a teeny bit. I'm going to give this a 2. Sentinel Totem, 1 mana, artifact. Enters the battlefield, scry 1. And then you can tap and exile it to exile all cards from your graveyard. Obviously, this is for constructed purposes. Limited, you might have some very, very fringe sideboard cases where it's playable, but just give it a 1. Shadowed Caravel, 2 mana, 2/2 vehicle. Whenever a creature you control explores, put a 1/1 counter on Shadowed Caravel, and then its accrue cost is 2. So 2 mana for a 2/2 vehicle, not where you want to be. In fact, you'd rather just have a bear in this scenario. But if you have a lot of explorer creatures, then this can gain a lot more value. The thing is, generally speaking, it's not going to be very good. I'm just going to give this a 2. Sleek Schooner, 3 mana for a 4/3 vehicle. Crew 1. All right, now we're talking. This is kind of reminiscent of Renegade Freighter. 3 mana, 4/3 vehicle, crew 1. That means anything effectively is going to be able to jump in the ship and crew it, and it's a 4/3 for 3, so I think this is more like a 3 out of 5. Sorceress Spyglass, 2 mana, enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, and then choose any card name. Activated ability of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Usually going to be more of a constructed card. Sure, you might bring this in from the sideboard occasionally if you have an opponent with, a ton of vehicles or other planeswalkers, high power cards, but for the most part, leave it in the sideboard where it can sometimes do good work out of the board. Gonna give it a 2, 1.5 rather. Vanquisher's Banner, 5 mana, choose a creature type when it enters the battlefield. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So normally in Limited, I wouldn't consider this type of card very, very good, but because tribes are such a large thing in this format, be it, dinosaurs, merfolk, pirates, etc., this can do some major work. Not only is it buffing your creatures, but you're drawing cards when you cast creatures of that type. So you're getting advantages in 2 different ways. I think this card has some real potential. I'm going to give it a 3. And that actually does it for the multicolor cards, the artifacts, and the transform cards. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this limited set review and all of the other limited set reviews I've done before. Haven't tried it out in a video format, so definitely a learning experience for me. I did kind of roll through them pretty quickly, but I didn't want the video to be, over a half an hour long. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please check out all the other content here on NumotGaming.com and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.